Good morning. Welcome to our webinar for this week, the 13th of September. We're quite well into spring and soon it will be October and then the end of the year. Nonetheless, we will keep our spirits up that, things will always get better in our country and that things are only temporary, bad things are only temporary, and good things will always come about. So that's wonderful. Nonetheless, today's topic, child's best interest, the right of the child, and that's how it works. When the law deals with matters concerning children, we do not focus on what is best for the parents, what is best for the lawyers, the psychologists, third parties, aunts and uncles, brothers and sisters. We focus on what is best for the minor child. That's a focus. It might be best for the parents to have primary care. It might be best for the parents to have overnight contact on certain days. But that's not what we look at. We look at what is best for the minor child, and from there we decide what should be applicable under the circumstances. Of course, it's not a unlimited right. For example, you can't argue that a parent's salary, 100% of the child's salary should go to the child's school, so the child can have the most expensive school in the entire city, despite the parents being unable to afford it, or they can only afford it if the parents themselves eat very little, work 5 jobs, and so on. So that's not how the law works. The law says look at everything, and when making decisions, focus on what's best for the child under the circumstances, not what is best for the parents or the third parties under the circumstances. We will unpack it further, and you would be able to understand what I mean as we go along. If you have any questions, feel free to post it on the Advocate Mohammed Abduroaf Facebook page. That's where I will be looking at. Many people post it later on. Unfortunately, I would not be able to answer it later. If you post it now, I would be able to answer it. Now, where do we get this concept, the child's best interest, that we should focus on the child's best interest? Okay, now we look at the Constitution first. The Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, Act 108 of 1996, the supreme law in South Africa. The law. Any law or conduct that violates our constitution is obviously improper, unlawful, unconstitutional, and should be cast away. So, what does our constitution stipulate? It says, Section 28(2), a child's best interests are of paramount importance in every matter concerning a child. So, very interesting point is best interest, not just a child's interest, but the highest interest of a child are of paramount. Paramount means not top importance, it's the highest importance in every matter concerning a child. So whether or not it's a criminal matter, if the child done something bad, and we do the criminal court, we focus on what is best for the minor child. A family dispute, child custody, care and contact, relocation, guardianship rights, passport application, and so on. The child's best interest, what is best for the child, because this matter relates to the child, not the ego of the parents, the preference of the parents, and so on. Of course, we need to look at that. I mean, if a child would best be cared for by a parent, but that parent does not have any interest in the child, of course, a bit of a contradiction. But let's say we have such a scenario. This parent has a nice house, a lot of maids, a lot of workers, a lot of money, the facilities to care for this minor child better than the other parent who does not have all these things. Let's say we're dealing with that scenario, and the child would best be cared for by that specific wealthy parent, but that parent does not want to care for the minor child. Of course, factoring that into it, it would not be in the minor child's best interest to be cared for by that parent, because the parent does not want to care for that specific minor child. So we do not always look at money and resources. We have to look at the matter holistically. So that is the Constitution as stated. Then we have a piece of legislation, law. The Children's Act, and we all might have heard of that. The Children's Act, it deals with matters concerning children, for example, parental rights, adoption, surrogacy, all those things, putting a minor child in the place of safekeeping, parenting plans, adoption, I think I mentioned that a bit earlier on, and so on, foster care. So what does the Children's Act stipulate? It says the following. Let me get to the section quickly. In all matters concerning the care, protection, and well-being of a child, the standard that the child's best interest is of paramount importance must be applied. So what are we saying here? The Constitution says The standard of the child's best interest must be applied. The Children's Act reinforces that principle that the child's best interest is of paramount importance must be applied. So that's where we're going to with this. So all matters, no matter how you look at it, from a legal perspective, from a legislative perspective, the child's best interest must be applied. From a constitutional imperative, our highest law in this country, it says the child's best interest, which is of paramount importance, must be applied. So that's fine. So we accept that. So let us go one step further in dealing with this in the topic or the issue concerning the child's participation in matters concerning the child, which is very interesting. Because how can we decide what is best for the minor child without first also listening to what the minor child has to say? It of course depends upon the age of the child. If the child is a little baby, you cannot engage with the child on that specific level. But if the child is mature enough, maybe 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, depending upon the facts, we need to listen to what the child has to say. Then we're dealing with the Children's Act General Principles, subsection 5, section 6, subsection 5 says the following. A child having regard to his age, his or her age, maturity and stage of development, and a person who has parental responsibility and the right respect of the child, where appropriate, must be informed of any action or decision taken in a matter concerning the child which significantly affects the child. So that's very important. A child needs to know what's happening around him. It's silly for the parents to debate and argue or litigate regarding the issue of whether a minor child should live or reside without. You need to engage the child. The child should know what's happening. And you need to ask the child, what is your view? What is your opinion on this? What is your preference under the circumstances? But that's the general principles. Let us deal with the specific section. Section 10 of the Children's Act says the following, dealing with child participation specifically. It says, every child that is of such an age, maturity, and stage of development as to be able to participate in any matter concerning that child has a right to participate in an appropriate way, and views expressed by the child must be given due consideration. Very interesting section. So, in determining what is best for the minor child, it's not done in a vacuum. The child's participation is given life, for lack of a better way of saying it. And then we're dealing with section 31. There are many other sections as well, but the last section I shall be dealing with is section 31 of the Children's Act. It deals with major decisions involving a child. And it goes as follows. It's quite a long section. Before a person holding parental responsibility and the right in respect of a child takes any decision contemplated in paragraph B involving the child, that person must give due consideration to any views and wishes expressed by the child, bearing in mind the child's age, maturity, stage of development. And subsection B is the following. A decision referred to in paragraph A is any decision, number 1, in connection with a matter listed in subsection 18.3c, that goes further up, affecting contact between the child and a co-holder of parental responsibilities and rights regarding the assignment of guardianship or care in respect of the child to another party in terms of subsection 27, or which is likely to significantly change or to have an adverse effect on the child's living conditions, education, health, personal relations with a person, with a parent or family member, or generally the child's well-being. So that's quite holistic over there. And in section 31, subsection 2 says the following. 2a, before a person holding parental responsibility and the right in respect of a child takes any decision contemplated in paragraph B, we dealt with that now, that person must give due consideration to any views and wishes expressed by any co-holder of parental responsibility and rights in respect of the child. So we consult with the child and with other parties who have parental rights and responsibility in respect of a minor child. Very important, very interesting sections in the Children's Act. So what are we saying? What am I saying here? I'm basically saying, whenever dealing with a child's best interest, yes, we focus on what is in the child's best interest, number 1, but we also have to listen to the child, give the child a voice, so the child can also be invested in a decision regarding him or her. For argument's sake, let us say the child is 16 years old and the child is living with mom. But mom does not necessarily have all the facilities there to facilitate the child's schooling. The child is maybe a good swimmer, and the child is mature enough to do his own homework and take care of himself. But at dad's place, dad was never the primary caregiver of the minor child. Dad only saw the minor child every second weekend and half school holidays. But dad has a swimming pool. Dad has the necessary space to give the child an opportunity to do his homework and whatever he needs to do. Mom remarried and there's some other people living in the house. Maybe there's another child that came out. So holistically, the child is mature. He's 16 years old and he feels that I want to live by dad. There's nothing stopping him from living by dad. He does his own homework. He has a tutor. He's fine. He's okay. He does not need mom as much as he would need mom under the circumstances. Had this matter been litigated without the child's involvement, the parents would have argued the same rhymes that they would have argued should the child have been 6 years old. I'm the mother, I'm the primary caregiver, I always looked after the minor child. The child has always been cared for me, I attend to the homework, etc. The father will say exactly the same thing, the same argument you'd have brought about, no, I'm the father, I can care for the child really well, blah, blah, blah. And that's the argument that will happen. But now we have the child put into the mix. The child will say, you know what, mom, you're right, you have assisted me with my homework all the time in the past, but now you stopped assisting me in my homework, or you do not have to assist me that much. I'm now I'm 16 years old, grade 10, whatever grade he's in, and things are now different. I would like to live by dad, and I can look after myself. I do not need someone to, stay awake at night with me. I can iron my own clothes and so on. So therefore, and I would want to live by dad because the pool is there and I can work on my swimming, and some of my friends live in the area, I can attend to my homework, etc. So the involvement of the child. So when you do often this documentation, or the experts get involved in these type of matters, they have a section where they consult with the mother, where they consult with the father, and they have a section where they consult with the minor child. And you know what? If factors favors the minor child living with either party, the court would actually look at it from that specific perspective. But of course, if the child wants to live with dad, because over historically, whenever the minor child is with dad, they go to McDonald's, they go to KFC, they have a good life. And dad does not necessarily have the capability and the capacity to care for the minor child. There's always nannies around or caregivers around, and the child requires a parent to assist him with schoolwork. He struggles with schoolwork. Under those circumstances, despite mom not having the best of household compared to the dad, it would be better for the minor child to live with a mother, because she would be better able to care for the minor child as opposed to the father. And that's the issue concerning our topic today. The child's best interest, the right of the child. It's not the right of the parents. We focus on what is in the minor child's best interest, and under the circumstances, if it is in the minor child's best interest to live with the dad, holistically, wonderful. The child should have to live with a dad, despite the minor child always having lived with a mom, and vice versa. Thank you very much for your time. I hope you have a lovely week ahead, and I'll see you online again soon.